Good late Thursday, early Friday. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving you a look at that regional map here early, really on that Friday morning around 2 a.m. or so Eastern, 1 a.m. Central. As we're seeing temperatures in our area pretty nice here, 50s on the board, and quite a few regions here within the viewing circle, and then some 60s though popping up, and even a 48 there at Cecil Field. And then we're at here east of Stark. We're at 54 degrees, so definitely a little bit, nicer than it's been being here at times. But as we look ahead, those temperatures are going to warm up, and we're going to have a chance for rain and storms Sunday and Monday. It's a little bit complicated here. I'll try to break that down a little bit better for you guys here than just saying that in a few moments. I know we have the Strawberry Festival coming up here, so as we're looking at things, it'll be interesting to see because it's looking like more of the sour action with some lightning possibility Sunday toward northeast, north central Florida. Now Monday is when there's actually a severe risk out as of now for parts of the area. Now that risk may end up focusing more towards South Georgia, maybe those western counties as well in the Florida region that we cover, but probably a lesser severe chances to get toward like Stark, Gainesville, St. Augustine with the organized event Monday night. Sunday could have some scattered showers and severe storms. So that's kind of an overview there. But you see, we're looking out toward the west because there's actually a really big weather story going on there. And we're not turning the logo red. There are some very bad conditions out in towards South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley. It's pretty localized. It's about flooding, not tornadoes. Not a tornado outbreak. There's been a few warnings, even a report of one there. But the overall severe risk has been pretty low. Not really seeing, a huge threat of like tornadoes or just damaging winds here, widespread nature. But the flooding has been catastrophic for those folks there. And as we look ahead toward the national picture, toward like Sunday, Monday, and kind of getting back toward home, we may have to turn the logo red eventually for the threat, but it's a little too iffy right now, the exact details. I do think there'll be some nasty weather that'll over like the heartland, even maybe, Mississippi, somewhere in that vicinity, give or take, as we look ahead Sunday into Monday. But you see out towards South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, there's a lot of concern as we're looking out that way. So let me go ahead and kind of zoom in on this here on our map. I know we have our little indicator on here. Let me turn that off real quick. I don't want to keep that up because that doesn't help us too much. It won't let me turn it all off. But let's go ahead and zoom in here and kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on as we're looking at things. So you can see there's severe thunderstorm warning still. I mean, they've been seeing these severe thunderstorm warning, the yellow boxes, on and off for a while, but it's not the biggest story. These green boxes, we're seeing some of these, in fact, catastrophic situations. I know there's a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Cameron, Kennedy, and Willis counties there until about 2 a.m. Central Time, 60-mile-an-hour winds, some weak rotation. But we have this terrible flooding. Let's go ahead and see the last 12 hours for rainfall here. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation, I know as we kind of look, I'm going to turn the lightning off. I'm going to turn our hail indicators off here and just kind of zoom in here because this is a problem. And in fact, if our sensor is working for us, I will go ahead and see our query tool for this because this is important here for the rainfall. This is on 10 plus inches of rain here in the last 12 hours or so. I mean, some visitors have seen a foot or so of rainfall. Just a terrible, terrible situation as we're looking there toward these areas. That's why we have flash flood emergencies in place. So you just hate to see stuff like this. There's life-threatening flash flooding. It's so important to turn around, don't drown. These folks here, to see an inch upon inch of rainfall. As I zoom in even closer here, you see areas like Harlingen and Rio Hondo there, Weslaco, getting down toward Hidalgo. This is just, I mean, we're talking about so much rainfall here in toward these communities. It's awful. And where the emergency is, it's this box right here that includes Weslaco. I know. I'll read the latest statement. Just got another update from the office, Weather Service office, their National Weather Service office in Brownsville, Texas. They're saying local law enforcement has reported there are multiple ongoing water rescues in southeastern Hidalgo County. Between 6 and 11 inches have fallen Additional amount of 1 to 3 inches are possible in the warned area. I know we're gonna have some rain coming up here locally. Nothing at all like this though, but flash flooding is occurring there. Flash flood emergency for southeastern Hidalgo County. I know we were tweeting some stuff there at Cloud Casey on Twitter, which is also the X platform, the other name for it there, new name for it. But a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground now. Life-threatening flash flooding of low water crossings, small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streams, the streets there, underpasses, and the like. So it's terrible. Just really bad flooding. Some of the areas in the region include Harlingen, Weslaco, Donna, Texas, Mercedes, Progresso, Weslaco East High School, kind of get in some of the schools so people, there would have the local landmarks, but, it's just indicating this in the statement, Weslaco City Hall, and the like. So really terrible. I mean, when that yellow is talking about foot of rain or so, we have other flash flood emergencies. The box there that includes areas in North Cameron County talks about 6 to 11 inches of rain, and emergency management reporting swift water rescues in La Fera there, if I'm pronouncing that properly, and Cameron County, 6 to 11 inches of rain have fallen. Just got to seek higher ground now. Yet another flash flood emergency there as we're looking toward Harlingen. Let's see, box over in toward that little backward L-type shape there. You see Santa Rosa over through Harlingen here. Catastrophic flash flooding in toward that area. It includes western and northwestern Cameron County and toward that region. You just hate seeing stuff like this. Just an awful situation where we've seen a foot of rain, multiple high-profile water rescues ongoing there. Flooded frontage roads from Santa Rosa to Combs there and northern Harlingen. Between 6 and 11 inches of rain have fallen in that area, and additional amount of 1 to 3 inches possible in the warned areas. So not good. Not good at all there. As I go ahead and switch back to the regular radar, I mean, that is just terrible. That heavy rain still falling in areas where people are trying to be kept, alive by getting rescued. A decent chance here that we're going to be talking about a just terrible situation where we're going to get reports here of just people losing their lives here. It's just so tragic towards South Texas with the rainfall just coming down inch by inch here, adding up to a foot of rain here, and then getting more very heavy rain right now around Harlingen in Cameron County, Texas. This is a catastrophic situation for these folks. Brownsville proper, I mean, look at that there. I'll put our indicator back on. The last 12 hours, less than an inch of rain. So right in the metro there, not as much. But you see Port Isabel, it starts to go up a little, but still not that big of a deal. But then look at these numbers. This is a foot of rain. I know these are 10, but 12 inches is probably what's happened based on the latest data here in some of these spots. And just, this is going to do it a little bit here. So this, you saw one of these there, close to 12 in here. As we're looking at, I'm kind of showing some of this. Let me take the marginal risk off for a moment. So it's showing the rain numbers, but there's a marginal risk even today, past, it'll be 7 a.m. Central Time. So just awful, awful stuff here as we're tracking the situation toward Texas, South Texas, deep South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley. You just hate seeing stuff like this. Again, Weslaco there. Again, you see some of these 11-inch totals here around Mercedes. I know we had hurricanes go through there years ago. I think it was maybe some of the 2020 period there. We had one that caused a lot of flooding. So many different communities, flash flood emergencies. So I've had so many, last several years since 2020 really, that even since 2016 to some degree, but 2020 especially, I don't even remember the name of it at this point, but it was in probably July there, give or take, and it was impactful down there with so much flooding and rain. But as we go ahead and look at things here, continue to track them. I know, you see that one today, thunderstorm morning, you see the marginal risk for today ahead there. Goes up through Houston into toward like Lake Charles, Calcasieu Parish, goes up through areas there like Alexandria. And I'm going to take our warning off because, some of theirs could get more flash flooding, but, concerns, as we're looking at things. Some haven't had it yet, but they're going to have that additional concern as we look ahead and toward the timeline. So just continuing to check here, though, look at everything. I'll put the lighting back on and, just kind of see the picture. I know FSU baseball going to be up there in areas around northern Indiana today. And it's an interesting pattern up that way. I mean, you see some pop-up acts in here. Not really wintry weather with it, but just cool rain, maybe even a little lightning here or there with some of this accents. May clear out for the Friday game, but we'll just have to wait and see over, that weekend period, see if we have some interruptions. It's a possibility there for sure. We see another margin of risk up toward areas there, like in Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin on that Friday. California and that Gator basketball team, they're in the Elite Eight. They're going to be playing Texas Tech there on Saturday night on TBS. So that's the game to get to the Final Four for the first time in about, 11 years, 2014. So that's big for them as we go ahead and look here. Congratulations to the Gators there. And I'm a Seminole, but congratulations to the Gators on getting to the Elite Eight. As we go ahead and look here at our maps again. I know we want to kind of get back into that local story here to some degree. And I'm here. I've been in Bradford County. It's been almost 25 years now, but right before I got, here, back in the year 2000, as we're looking at things, I was, born and lived, in toward North Texas and toward the Metroplex there, where on this day now, it is past midnight, 25 years ago, there were tornadoes that came through toward that area, toward that region there. And it was a tornado outbreak that I'll never forget. It really kind of, along with just seeing the weather shifts, my parents watching there, about one day, 80s, 90s, next day, you have much cooler conditions coming in to the pitch or something to that degree. I mean, at points in the period you have to watch ice storms, but, watching that along with this tornado outbreak 25 years ago today inspired me to be a meteorologist. I am today. So, it was a terrible, terrible night there in 2000, Fort Worth, Arlington, Grand Prairie area. That vicinity, seeing impacts there. I know even one of the teachers, not one of my teachers, but one of the teachers at the elementary school I went to at the time in kindergarten there, they lost their homes. So, there were fatality, and injury reports out of this situation there in North Texas. And the Fort Worth tornado actually grabbed more of the headlines than the tornado that came about a mile from our home there as we were looking at things. And then there's Fort Worth, and then as you look over toward the east here, you see areas like Arlington, Grand Prairie, and what a terrible night that was. They're about to be moving out of that area. Home didn't get hit, but tornado, one of those, came within about a mile. What a terrible, terrible night there 25 years ago. I remember being in that, in that closet there to protect myself just in case the tornado came through, along with my father and my mother. Just a crazy set of circumstances. That anniversary is today, it's tonight, as we look ahead on that. It's now Friday night. It's 25 years ago on that 28th of March. I was back in 2000. As we get back to the local view here, where I've been for almost 25 years now for the most part, as we're, looking at things. We need to go ahead and see the current temperatures. I mean, it is pretty, nice. It's kind of nice out there, even in the 70s earlier, because we didn't have as much humidity. Now we're even cooler, obviously some of these areas in the 40s. So that's the storyline here for sure as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the scenario. So let me go ahead right now, though, and get on over to the graphics. Kind of get into more details here. And as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them. And of course, you see Gainesville on that map there. It's where we have the 56 reading nearby, 75. And they're celebrating that Gator basketball win. I mean, I have them projected myself to get the national championship game, and then they end up losing to Duke in that. But, let's say Alabama, ends up upsetting Duke. Florida performed well against Alabama this season. There's a chance Florida, play somebody else, and then they would, have a better chance potentially to win a national title. So I think Duke matches up with Florida well, and would probably beat them. But anybody else, if Florida wins their games and gets there, and then it's somebody other than Duke, Florida could win their third national title. It's a decent chance that they would win their third national title in their history, in the program's history there for men's basketball. 2020 FSU basketball, they had such a great season going, kind of similar to the Florida season this year, and then COVID ended, the hopes there in terms of, a lot of things, a lot of lives tragically, but also that men's basketball tournament there. Chance didn't happen for FSU to win their first ever men's basketball national title. What a great team Leonard Hamilton had that year. He just retired here, and he had a great career. But he won a national title as an assistant at Kentucky decades ago. He was trying to get to the Final Four this, I'm referring to 2020, won that national title, but it was all taken away like so many other things there during COVID. And as we go ahead now and say right now, our look at things, our graphical look now as we go ahead and progress here in the show. That historic outbreak occurred almost 2 weeks ago now. We gotta watch out. Maybe to turn that logo red again could have trouble with some tornadoes popping up. If I don't have the logo red, doesn't mean somebody couldn't have a big problem with a tornado toward the Midwest. That's probably gonna happen. Somebody's probably gonna have some very dangerous weather. We're already seeing terrible weather in South Texas. It's not quite enough to, really ramp up coverage on my end, but video could have to be on for at least local concerns Sunday and or Monday as we're looking towards parts of our viewing circle. Maybe more thunderstorm warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings of the wind and or hail, but we could have a tornado warning here or there. It's definitely possible. Models are kind of split still in some of that. That's why I'm not taking a definitive tone, but when there's a tornado warning in play, try to avoid taking shelter in a mobile home, get inside a sturdy bed, and put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and protect yourself from flying debris. Put on a bicycle helmet. And even want to watch, or just threaten, play for your area, really. Just stay tuned for the latest in charge devices. Have multiple ways to receive alerts. Now we'll go ahead and say you here. Sunday's Rest, this is the latest update. We'll get a new update here pretty soon. You can get some of that on Carter.com/severe, and on the SPC site at spc.noaa.gov. But you can see here, this is a huge, huge area with a risk on Sunday, but it's not going to all be tornadoes here. Some will be wind, and we'll just kind of have to play that by ear to see how significant it is, where we're going to get a, more upgraded risk, or we're just going to have a slight and or enhanced. That would seem a little more likely, but if we start seeing a ramp up then, we could have a moderate risk or something like that in play somewhere within that yellow region, not out of the question. And that's, could be more for wind, could be, that would be more likely than anything, but we'll pay attention and make sure we give you the latest updates as warranted. I know we do have a small risk toward our area on that Sunday. It'll probably end up popping up as like a marginal eventually here as we look toward Stark, Gainesville, and that Strawberry Festival on Sunday. I know this makes it look like it's an all clear, but we've got to pay attention. Saturday, only a 10% chance of, or excuse me, let me double check my numbers. I've had to keep switching around. 30% chance on Saturday, though. On Stark, it might not be, huge concern Saturday. The models have been iffy. As we're looking, it's a 10% chance on this Friday, 30% Saturday, but we'll get to 60% Sunday. I could have some pop-up convection. Some model guidance is really going pretty, active with that convection, like towards Central Florida on Sunday, way out ahead of the main thread. So it's kind of an iffy setup. And then on Monday, your outlook, it's a huge area. Start Gainesville, and maybe probably falling off as it gets here for the Monday rest. But that doesn't mean we couldn't have a warning. You got to still stay tuned. The models are having a tough time with the setup, to be quite honest here. I know we were supposed to have some severe weather in the Pacific Northwest. The potential was really there on that Wednesday, and there wasn't any severe weather warnings. We talked about that Tuesday night, and we ended up getting some lightning reports, so some damage, caused by lightning up there and toward the Pacific Northwest. So, I mean, the models, some of these systems a little bit tougher sometimes, so just stay tuned For the latest here into the rainfall forecast next 7 days, still adding to some of that flooding there in North Texas, South Texas, and then you see other areas here generally a little bit lesser in the amounts, and then the word like Stark and Gainesville, you see a half inch, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. As you look towards South Georgia, though, a little bit more, especially as you get in the northern fringe of the area, maybe closer to an inch on average. I know you can go to cloud.com/radar for an interactive look at things when I'm not on the air, and then we'll always be on if there's any tornado warning storm moving through any of the 62 counties. I've been doing that for over 5 years now. It's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. I know we're in Bradford County. We're watching things from Quitman County, Georgia, to Liberty County, Florida, Franklin County, Florida, all the way down to Levy, Marion, and Flagler. So that's the storyline there. As we see, fog still potential as we look. So just watch out for hazardous driving conditions due to low visibility. Slow down and give yourself extra time to reach your destination, and make sure your vehicle is as visible as possible to other vehicles by using your low beam headlights. It's always important to remember because, accidents involving vehicles, folks too close, the fog gets worse. Then you have life or death situation potential in your hands. So leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. As we go ahead and see the extended forecast now, 10% chance on that Friday of rain, 30% Saturday. So Strawberry Festival looks pretty good there Saturday. Sunday, it may end up being okay, but there's also a chance we could end up having some concerns. So just stay tuned for the latest on Sunday here as we're looking at things. 60% chance of rain as we're checking things here with the very latest. So just trying to continue to give you guys the updates here on all of this. As you see, strong to severe storms pass over varying points and spots. At varying points, and it is varying spots. So you see the warm up though toward like 87 by next Thursday, so getting way above average there. Even the lows, right now the lesser humidity values keep those down, but we get those up through the clouds first, and then the humidity just really gets up there, and it's gonna be pretty nasty feeling here. Start off April, it's gonna be way above average. So just that's just the storyline here. It's not fun. Not fun here. The warm one up. It's going to start feeling like summer to some degree. Early parts of summer are different, lesser intense parts of summer here in early April potentially. So just keep that in mind. Not like heat advisory or heat warning type conditions, but the humidity will start to creep up some. You see the low goes to 65 by next Thursday. That indicates quite a bit of warmer air in play. It's not gonna be as fun. See 83 now, or even we had like 80 on that Thursday, give or take. It's gonna feel a lot worse by next Thursday here because of the temperature increase and then the humidity increasing there as well. So that's not fun. Not fun here, for sure. Summertime starting to come into play. A little early. Hopefully that doesn't last. But that's kind of the storyline right now as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the latest situational details here on this late Thursday, early Friday. I know they are just coming out with the SPC outlook for Friday toward parts of Kansas, Oklahoma. It's day 2, so that's Saturday. They just came out with it though. This now here on this Friday. And a small tornado chance, Tulsa to Wichita to Kansas City, Jefferson City, out on the edge just outside of that. So we'll have to pay attention there. Could have some significant hail from just around north of Tulsa into Kansas there at some point. So that'll be something to be watching as we're looking at things, as we're tracking it. So that's kind of the storyline there. Of course, Sunday, Monday, we've talked about that. We're going to pay attention here and give you the latest updates as conditions warrant. And that pretty much will kind of start to wrap things up here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and jump away from the graphics here. And we'll jump on back to our other source. As you know, I thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for trusting me. So it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. And, we're watching the outdoor Texas there. That line, that's just adding insult to injury with all that heavy rain. areas have already seen a foot or so of rain, getting a torrential downpour. That's awful, quite honestly. They're in deep South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley. I know there's Brownsville, Harlingen, Thason's working hard tonight. I mean, temperature upper 60s. You still have some, severe parameters here. The instability up there in South Texas. And yikes, I mean, they've had just so much rain. I mean, we were talking about warnings 12 hours ago, give or take. Many hours ago down there, and it just is not fun for those folks there in that area. I mean, we were looking at severe warnings back at like noon Central Time, and we've been seeing, whether it's severe or occasional tornado warnings, and then mostly the, majority flash flood warnings, I would say. That's been the storyline for over 12 hours now. I mean, that's awful. They've been getting hammered in those few counties there in deep South Texas. That rain is, deadly dangerous situation for those folks down there. You hate seeing that as we're looking there. And that's a foot of rain. Those yellow areas, give or take, last 12 hours. Again, that's not Brownsville proper. I said it wasn't near that, bad right in Brownsville proper, but these other areas have just been down a terrible blow. Harlingen, Weslaco, as we're looking at things there, Rio Hondo, Mercedes is in here as well. Water rescues happening. People getting caught in the water. It's too high, and it becomes a matter of life and death. And then folks are having to try to get them out of them, or get them out of there to save their life. Get them out of there to save their life, because and hope that it works out, because that water current can be so fast when you have only 6 inches of flowing water can knock you down. If you have 2 feet of that, oh boy, it's not good, folks. It can be deadly. You can be swept away before you can even get rescued, obviously. At night, it makes things even worse here for these folks. It makes things even worse. Harlingen there, Rio Hondo. I mean, all that water there, all that water just falling deep South Texas. I mean, that's why you don't want to go over a flooded road there if you can't see how deep the water is. You don't want to go over any flooded road, but if you can just tell for sure in the daylight that it's 1 inch of water, it's one thing. But at night, you're probably not going to tell how deep it is. You just really need to be in a spot where you're staying home if you can. Of course, if water's coming into an area where you're desperately trying to get to higher ground, that's one thing. But it's a bad situation there in South Texas tonight. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it on up here. Thoughts and prayers to those folks there. And we're watching our local conditions, but that pales into comparison to what they're dealing with down there in deep South Texas tonight. Just awful. But that's going to wrap it up. Have a great night. Stay safe. Obviously, that really applies to folks in deep South Texas tonight. Rio Grande Valley, even in northern Mexico there as well. You see some of that lightning there. I know 12-hour totals down there. Generally, right over the border some, but generally, according to the radar there in that area, they haven't been as bad. Eventually you can't see because these are Weather Service radars here on U.S. soil when you're looking. Eventually you can't see there, as you get further and further away from the radar side. But, right there near the border, you didn't see a lot, as you got too far away from it at least. I can see there's a few areas right here, just right there south of Hidalgo and Progreso that have gotten it very bad there in northern Mexico. But it's mainly a U.S. story, a South Texas story in terms of what we can see on the radar, perspective here. As you look down here, if there was something tornadic or severe, you wouldn't have a warning because that's not, that is not covered by the Weather Service offices. That's, part of Mexico. So that's kind of how that works there. So again, that's the storyline, this terrible situation there in Texas. You see all those different areas impacted as we zoom back on in. That's kind of storyline for now. Have a great night. I'll be back here as it's warranted, in the ward that Sunday, Monday, and the like, whether it's local and or national. We're going to be on top of things here to protect you, your friends, and your family. That's what it's all about here at Clouds Weather. If there are any questions or comments here, as we're looking at things, I don't see anything. But again, have a good night. Stay safe. And I'll be back here in the days to come. Of course, the next full update's late Tuesday, but again, probably going to be popping on before that at points. Especially, you know, as we look, probably have something local that we'll have to come on for at some point. Could have a risk enough to get that logo ready even for South Georgia, especially on Monday, or maybe, you know, before sunset, even on Mondays when we could have the worst of things, you know, and that could be more South Georgia, could be even earlier in the day, potentially. The models are still kind of split on the exact details here, but we'll have more as conditions warrant.